world needs to hear this.
Okay. Hold on, let me back my story up for the listeners. I did powder puff football my junior year of high school. Not my
Excellent
senior
choice.
year. But my junior year. For those of you who don't know, powder puff football is one game a year where the girls play football and the guys are cheerleaders.
Mm-hmm.
We love the gender binary. And so I am very small. I'm 5'3". I don't weigh very much. I'm a little person. And they put me on the offensive line. And I didn't know anything about football, but I knew that this was the wrong decision. I only did this. I was not in it to play football. I didn't want to. I wanted to play as little as possible. I was in it for like the social. Like I had a friend that was doing it, and like the popular people did this, so I was gonna do this.
Yeah.
I was not one of the popular people on this team, but you know what? I was there, and I got a picture with some cute boys who were dressed as like cheerleaders. So mission accomplished. However, I only played for 3 little.
We couldn't figure out the word
rounds. They're not rounds, but you know what I mean.
It's like a rotation.
I think
but
it's
that
plays.
Play, yeah.
3 plays. I have no idea.
Sure.
They blew the whistle 3 times or something. I don't know. It was very quick, and that was exactly the way that I wanted it. Let's be clear. However, I was on the offensive line, and I was standing opposite a senior girl who I'm pretty sure was a softball player, and she was, I swear to God, the largest person on that field. She was I was looking up at her, like, she was just so large, and I was like, why am I here, right? Like, my life flashed before my eyes a little bit. I'm not going to do anything to block her. Like, this isn't a good position for me to be in. And then she, on the first couple of times, she just, like, hit me. Like, it, like, it's flag football, but what are you going to do to block somebody? You're going to block them with your body. But I'm very small. There's not a lot of body to go around. So I just immediately got shoved out of the way. Like, I was not doing anything. I was not doing anything at all. On the 3rd time, she body slammed me so hard, I flew backwards, and like my parents came to watch. I was literally airborne. I think I did like at least part of a flip in the air, because like I swear to God, I flew feet backwards in the air. My parents came to see it, and my dad said he could pick me out immediately because of who I am as a person. I was wearing a bow clipped into my ponytail.
I think most girls that are part of Puff did.
Yeah, most girls did not. They were like the cool, like basketball girls were the cool girls at our school, and like other.
See,
like,
ours were like combined. Like they were the bow wearing, but they were also the basketball girls.
Yeah, that was not their vibe. However, it was my vibe. I was the only one, but I was wearing a bow in my hair, and it like snapped backwards as I got body slammed across the field. And they were like, "Oh God!" And then they took me out. They were like, "You're done," and I was like, "Oh, thank God, I did my part." The friend that I signed up with, she got a
touchdown.
She like got the flag.
Oh, gotcha.
She got.
I suppose I don't know the intricacies of flag football. I forgot there were flags.
It's essentially like she tackled, but you can't tackle. So she grabbed their flag while they had the ball, and we were like, "Wow, I'm so proud of you." I, however, am done. I'm out, and that's good for me.
That's great for you. I mean, this is so relevant because it's currently the Super Bowl.
That's true.
Go the Super Bowl. I could care less.
The Super Bowl.
That's why
Not
I'm
even
here.
one of the teams. Just go Super Bowl.
I think it's the Eagles and the Chiefs. Yeah, Kansas City and
idea.
Philly. I think. Just got an alert that Patrick.
Saying literally any mascot and city name right now, and I would be like, sure.
I just got an alert that Patrick Mahomes. He limped off the field. So hearts out to you, Pat. Hope you're doing well.
I've never heard that.
My friend, she's a huge Chiefs fan, so I think she's hurting right now.
You could be like, oh, it's the Salt Lake City Anteaters, and
so we just watched
the Chicago Unicorns, and I'd be like, really interesting.
We just watched a movie on Netflix, Feel the Beat. She's like a New York Broadway dancer, and then like she goes back to her hometown of Wisconsin. There are the Churners apparently in that show, so I mean I'm pretty close to Wisconsin. Derry's my name, so like let's do it. The Churners.
That
Yeah,
sounds like a minor league baseball team.
Yeah, it definitely does. We've got the moon dogs here. Apparently, it's a thing that the moon does. It, like, in some part of summer, I don't know, creates a moon dog. It's a thing.
Okay.
I constantly think about, like, The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and, like, how just, like, not competitive I am. And, like, all of those activities that they get signed up to do, like, there was, like, one, there was, like, it was, like, flag football or, like, I just couldn't imagine having to do that. Let alone you're trying to date someone, but you're also, like, having to, like, be on national television. Like, I'm the type of person who, like, skirts, like, on, like, the outside, like, in gym, and so, like, one time I was the last person in dodgeball because I just simply refused to, like, make myself present, and then when I realized I was the only one, I was like, "Hit me." I surrendered. I was like, "This is too much pressure. I can't handle." I mean, like, what do they want me to do? Like, I'm not gonna, like, it was a bad situation. I'm
I don't
not
know, that's never been I get out early on.
well,
My
I
role
think
was always to run enough laps of the pacer
mm,
test that I wasn't the first one to stop,
mm,
but as soon as
mm,
1 or 2 other people stopped, I was done.
gotcha. See, I had no shame. Okay, well, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes.
The best of holidays, well, maybe not the absolute best, but one of the best of holidays, if only for the pink and the hearts and the chocolate of it
And
all.
and that's why I love it. I've had Valentine's candy for, like, a month now. It's been great. I have just, like, a
I
jar of it by my bed.
last year put up the like little gel sticky like window
Yes.
cling things. I had these little hearts and I put them on my vanity mirror
Mhm.
so that there were like little hearts around, and then I just never took them off because I
As you
was like,
shouldn't.
these are really cute. So they've just been there all year, but now they're seasonally. I also have like a little neon light up heart thing on my wall and a little bowl of candy that is a pink heart
Yep.
that sits on
Yep.
my desk. And so now it has Valentine's Day candy in it, but it's always there.
There's always candy out. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was Christmas candy for a while
I know, I had,
in a
like, Halloween,
heart-shaped
Christmas.
bowl.
As you
Evie,
should.
hearts
Yeah.
are all year.
I've got, like, a heart Valentine's mug that the candy's in by my bed.
Very cute.
I know.
I just bought
And it's
a,
just, like,
a heart
pink. I
mug.
mean, pink's my favorite color, so I thrive.
Same. Same.
I really do.
It's so good.
Yeah.
The chocolate, the
I know.
love. It's
The
like,
love.
wow, we can talk about romance novels as if we don't talk about romance novels all the time anyway.
I
But now
know.
it's seasonally appropriate.
It's seasonally appropriate. I get to do my annual viewing of Valentine's Day. Um, do you like that one? The
No.
movie?
No. No.
It has, like,
No.
Julia Roberts. No, not Julia. Yes. Yes, yes, she's in it. Ashton Kutcher. It's like the ensemble one. George Lopez is in it. Taylor Swift and Taylor Lautner were in it. Not
Wow.
right.
I don't like almost any of the people you just named.
I think you need to
Or at
watch
least
that
I wouldn't
movie.
want to watch them
But
in
it's
something.
like it's
Not
like
that I
one of
don't like
those, like, huge ensemble, like, it's not maybe not great, but it sure has the vibes that I love.
Yeah,
Every
but
year,
the
it's
only
amazing.
other thing that I can think of is Love Actually. That's another like huge
Ew.
ensemble type
Ew,
thing,
I
and
don't like that one.
I didn't like
I
that.
do think it may be the creators of Love Actually.
I'm pretty sure it
But
is.
I don't like Love Actually, so I will say that. But
Anyway, goodness, we went back to bantering 15 minutes in. Happy Valentine's Day from Romance with TBR.
that's us. Look at us.
What are we doing today?
Well, it's kind of so I sussed out, like, all my Valentine's recs, but,
Mhm.
like, so I've got, like, a few, and I read, like, a few more to, like, have some. But before, when we were, like, brainstorming what to do, we were like, how do we do this historical romance-esque? Because there aren't a lot. I did find a few, though. But we were like, how do we do it? Caroline had the wonderful idea of having us read books where the heroes are named Valentine. I think most
Mhm.
of them, it's the first name. I don't know if I read any or we have any where it's the last name, but
I think they were all first names.
yeah. So we've got we have actually a few.
There's
So
one that I meant to read and did not, but
yeah.
there were several
So
on our
that
list.
one's still on the TBR, and then we read a few in the past, and I did not revisit them because I've been busy with other things to read. I read a lot of Audible originals, the other day and all that. And so like we got some good recs. It'll be an interesting episode.
Yeah.
I think we each had some interesting experiences with the ones that we hadn't read before. I read Duke of Sin by Elizabeth Hoyt, and boy, was I awash with yearning spunk at that
Ugh,
one. Yeah. Yeah.
God, I love terrible sex words in romance. They're my
I
favorite thing.
made a list of
Wasn't
just
he joking? Wasn't that the context
no.
for that whole
No,
quote?
that's his vibe.
Interesting. There's another Elizabeth Hoyt quote that I think Jacqueline said, or it was something about
That's
Evie.
the one that she posted was that scene.
Well, but whatever the one that she posted, she said it was like like he was joking when he was saying it.
I didn't really get I think that's just I mean he like it was kind of like a joke, but like it was his vibe. I don't know. He's not for me. He's for someone out there, maybe you. I'm excited for you to read this.
I hope he's for me.
I mean, the thing is, I think about this book. I like he is truly a villain. Like, you know, there are some who are like, you know, they can kind of skirt the gray. I mean, it's like Sebastian St. Vincent, like, you know, he's like a villain-esque, like he is
I
bad.
mean,
But
he
he's got
does like kidnap Lily.
oh, this guy kidnaps multiple people multiple times, 80% through this book. Like he's a guy. So like you've read like Morally Gray, but I mean this guy's pretty, you know, pretty toxic. And there's this like cult. And there's so you have to get dolphin tattoos. So he's just got a dolphin tattoo on his ass. And his father, his father was the runner of this cult, and then he tried to like get Valentine into the cult when he was a kid, and Valentine was like no, because then the guy was gonna force him to like abuse and then kill his half sister, and he was like, I'm not gonna do that. So he took his sister away, left. His father died, and then in this book he starts out because he's obsessed with blackmail. And he like blackmails the king at the beginning. He blackmails like multiple people in this book. And then he's like, how about I become head of this cult? And instead of shutting it down, I just have supreme blackmail power over these horrible people, even though the cult like goes after women and children in bad ways. And like his whole reasoning wasn't to stop them. It was just to get himself more power. And like fine, maybe not fine, but like I can skirt around it for like the beginning, but this man 80% through was still like he was like honestly like it was like the charm was a little dulled for him after he kind of fell in love, but he's like I guess I'll still do it. And then he gets there, and obviously like spoilers like are gonna happen. They've kidnapped her, so tables have turned. She's been kidnapped, the heroine. And then obviously he saves her, but I'm like, sir, if she wasn't the one kidnapped, would you like I think he like would he have gone through with it if it would have been some other woman and not her? Like I think he would have. And like I don't know. I didn't hate it. I was surprised how much I actually I suppose didn't hate it, but like it just so wasn't my vibe, but it was crazy. I mean, like so she was like his head housekeeper. She was tasked with stealing back something he stole for blackmail purposes, and then she got that. So he had like was blackmailing the woman he wanted to marry, and then he was also blackmailing our heroine's mother. So she was getting like her stuff back, and she was also getting the stuff for his fiance or whatever back. And then like halfway through, she sets the fiance free because he kidnaps her. So then like halfway through the book, he just like kidnaps a woman because she like got back her kidnap thing. So then she like set her free from him. So then she wrote him a letter like, hey, I got my shit back. I'm not marrying you. And he's like, ha ha ha, no. Kidnaps her, takes the heroine to his like castle, straight up. And then she notices that there's a woman in the basement, and then she lets her go. And then there's a novella after this. That's the kidnapped woman's romance, which I read too, because I was like, it's 2 hours. This is intriguing. And then immediately after, like, she sets the woman free, like, they're on, like, the moors or whatever, and he's, like, very turned on that she, like, got one over on him, so then that's when they first have sex. But I was baffled when he had kidnapped another one. I was like, "My god, sir." Yeah, there's quite a bit of male nudity. He likes to be nude. What else? He's a certified boob guy. These are my notes. He loves her breasts. I mean, his like in the first 10 minutes, he's like he just talks about titties. Like that word is not great, especially in like historical romance. Like what? And I
saw
was
a
just like,
TikTok today. No, I saw a TikTok today where this woman wrote a list that was like, and for her husband, that was which of these, which of my qualities do you love the most, right? And it was like mind, soul, booby, or something like that. Like that was and it was like a little checklist, and he had to like check which one he loved the most, and she gave it to him, and it records him. He draws another little box, and he writes soul, and you're like, oh, and then he checks the boobies.
that's him.
That's him.
That's Valentine Napier. Yeah. I some other good quotes. Grotesquely engorged. Emptied his loins into her furnace.
Sure.
His precious foreskin.
Precious.
Awashed in yearning spunk. That was a fun one.
Right.
Your plump little toes and plump little fingers. She had plump extremities. He loved them. He talked about it multiple times. I just like his hot tongue.
Yeah.
I mean, he straight up sliced. He like disemboweled a man. I mean, at that point, I was like, yeah, he deserved it. Just right in front of her, she had blood on her dress. After he had gotten poisoned. So he like there was like a whole 6 scene. He got poisoned. He was not likely to come out of it. He comes out of it because I think just his willpower of not wanting to die like that. And then he like straight up kills the guy, which I mean, to each their own. Elizabeth Hoyt is just so odd because like as the series goes on, like I've read now like 6 or 7 of these books, I think, and I've pretty much read them in order. Ish. That's a big ish. Like I haven't read the first 3, but then I've read like 4 through this is 10. So I've read like 4 through 10 and a half, sans like 1 or 2. And they just get progressively darker as they go on. And like I don't know if I really want to continue like after the novella that I read. That one wasn't really dark at all, but like it gets really heavy into like child trafficking and like very dark backstories, and like the hero of the next book was in this one, and he's like trying to take down this cult. I think that's what it's still on because Valentine just kind of I think just left. And then he had like his whole like traumatic childhood was his father would like kill all these kittens he had, so he would like get him a kitten and then he would like give it to him, and then as soon as he like misbehaved he would kill the kitten, and then he just like kept giving him kittens. So then his whole mentality was you have to kill the thing that you love, because then he killed his like last kitten before his father could do it. And I was like, this is gratuitous animal death. I was like, that's a lot of kittens. It had its ups and downs. It was very dramatic. He was at a level 10 this entire book, even on his deathbed. So yeah. I mean, I can't wait for you to read that one. But I mean, there's just a lot. Ass and titties out all day.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to segue out of that.
No.
So I'm just gonna say wow, and then say the only one that I read that like there are the other ones that we had read before that we wanted to mention, but the only one that I hadn't already read that I read for this was what's it called?
The Virtuoso.
The Virtuoso
by Grace Burrowes.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I ended up giving it a couple of stars because it wasn't all bad. Like they had a very sweet relationship. Like they kind of hit it off. Well, they'd met before and kissed. And so now reconnecting, like, it's a lot of, like, charming, like, just them spending time together and hanging out and, like, having their little affair and being sweet, and it was very nice in those moments. A lot of the time, though, I was bored, and so I would
Yeah.
speed the audiobook up because I was bored, and then so partially it's my own fault that I would miss things and then be like, "Whoa, who are all these random characters?" However, there were, like, a lot of random characters, and there was this whole
Yeah.
plot where she was getting blackmailed,
Ugh, I
and
hate blackmail.
oh, you would hate this
I hate it
particular
so much. I
blackmail
hate it
so
so
much
much.
because,
Tell me. I
okay,
need to
well,
be
so
angry.
without spoilers for anybody, just
Yeah.
essentially, she was getting blackmailed over something that wasn't even her fault, and it was dumb. And she waited until quite literally the hours before he was leaving, which she was making him leave, even though they were in love, to tell him, and he was like, "That wasn't even your fault." Like, what are you? And so he leaves because she makes him, because this bad guy will come after him because he's associated with her. And so she's like sending him away to protect him. Because the bad guy's already been coming after him because he like won this estate off of him when he was gambling, and so whatever. And he leaves and he takes care of the bad guy, but the bad guy has done some horrific things and does not. You would also hate that he really doesn't get dealt. Like, he has to leave the country. He goes to the
Yeah.
continent. Like, he's
But he
done
can
these
just
other
thrive
like.
there.
Well, he can't thrive. They did
Well,
mention
that's
like.
good.
I mean, he was broke anyway, so when he
Mhm.
left, he basically just took, like, he's got jewelry, so he's got enough to, like, get him somewhere. But they were like, you know, that's all he's got, and his family, he's the, like, last son of a duke, and they're, like, a really powerful family, and so they essentially, I think they own, like, shipping companies or something, whatever. They basically were like, we'll know if he tries to come back. So, like, we did get him out. However, now we move on to the spoilers, so skip to the next, like, timestamp or whatever if you don't want to hear spoilers for this book. He, without her knowledge or consent, aborted 3 pregnancies of her
What?
pregnancies.
What?
Yeah, okay.
The villain? Oh my god.
Oh! So,
It's fine.
she's a
I'm not
widow.
fine. Yeah.
She's, which, like, by the way, like, he's a villain, but this is just a weird plot line. So he, okay, she marries, I think he's like a baron, like a low-ranking peer. They have this estate. He, the villain, is like a kind of cousin, like he's the heir at this point to her husband, who they like love each other, but it's not like a passionate marriage, right?
Yeah.
They just, but they love each other, they want kids. He tried to essentially be like, give me money. And she was like, no.
Same.
Like, no. But she also didn't tell her husband that he was asking her for money because, like, she knew that he was slimy. I think he'd done something before, too, that she didn't like.
Yeah.
But her husband didn't know that, and there was, like, a family, like, so she didn't want to, like, ruin their relationship, and also, like, she
that's
thought
why
that,
I fucking hate blackmail, man.
and she thought that he was trying to, like, reconcile with him, so she didn't want to, like, mess that up, because he was the heir, right? Like, whatever. So she said no to giving him money. And then she's trying to have kids. Also importantly, she's a gardener. She's got, like, gorgeous gardens. So, like, she's familiar with plants. She makes things for people, whatever. Sells produce. So she mentions throughout this book that, like, she can't have kids, is how she says it, or like there won't be a pregnancy when they're getting together. So you think she's just infertile because she blames herself and says she was never able to give her husband children. But it turns out she had 3 pregnancies and miscarried all 3 of them.
Your face is scaring me.
What actually happened is she said that she would have these really, like, awful pregnancies. She would be very sick and nauseous. And the bad guy, the cousin, would bring her peppermint tea.
It's always a fucking cousin.
It is. He would bring her peppermint tea because peppermint tea will soothe your stomach. And she said she drank, like, a cup after cup of peppermint tea because it was the only thing that would, like, soothe her stomach, right? And then she would lose the pregnancy. And it turns out that this was because he was not giving her peppermint tea. He was giving her pennyroyal, which tastes like peppermint. But pennyroyal is an herb that women would use to bring on their menses, is how they would say. So it essentially could like force a miscarriage. So he was aborting her pregnancies.
That's rough.
Without her not like she didn't know that was what was going on. Also, it's never confirmed, but it's highly suggested that he poisoned her husband.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And so he died. And then he was blackmailing her this whole time because she was left, like, he was technically left whatever was entailed, but like her widow's portion was like, she owns a lot of the like land, and she lives on this cottage, or in this cottage on the land, and like she collects the rent from everybody. And the hero can't figure out where the rent money is going because she's living essentially in poverty in this cottage. And collecting the rent, but not like helping the tenants at all. Like they haven't seen any of their rent. And so he's like, what is going on? Like, is she just like keeping all this money for herself? What's going on? But they go look, and it's like in an account that the cousin has been withdrawing money from, and so they're all confused. And it turns out he has been blackmailing her with the whole pennyroyal situation, saying that if she doesn't give him this money, he will tell everyone that like she's the gardener, she understands plants, she aborted her own pregnancies, and he will imply that she killed her husband. And the hero is like, well, so she's going on and on about how this guy killed her babies, which already was kind of a weird vibe. Which, like, I understand why a pregnant person would feel that. Like, when you wanted the pregnancies, you would feel that way. But it just, like, it was weird. We were really hitting hard, like, he's killed babies, and I was like, we're doing a lot. And then the hero was like, well, they weren't born, so you can't be prosecuted for murder. Like, that's not a thing at that point. That's the law. They would have to be born. And she was like, no, but I could be prosecuted for disobeying my husband in aborting the pregnancies. And so basically he was blackmailing her and saying that he would pin it on her because she's the gardener and she's the one with the knowledge to do it. And so she was giving him the money. And then she was like, he's going to come after you. In fact, he's been coming after him and like putting him and his workers in life-threatening situations throughout this book. And then the hero has to go find out that he was like selling votes in the House of Lords.
Of course the House of Lords comes in.
Right. That would piss off the prince if he knew that. And so they chase him out. But like, I just got to this point, and she tells him at the very last minute. She waits as long as she can. She's really held out on this secret and been like, I've done something horrible. Like, you're going to hate me when you find out, like, I'm such a liar, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what, did you kill your husband? And she's like, no, worse.
Like, what?
And I was like, girl, you didn't do anything. And so she's like, well, she blames herself because if she had just given him the money in the first place, the first time he asked for it, he wouldn't
he would have kicked him back. Blackmailers
killed her babies.
See, when I read blackmail, I realize I have no shame. All of these people who get blackmailed don't want to tell other people about it. They want to harbor it. They have too much pride. I have no pride. Okay? I would just immediately ask for as much help as I could. Like, I wouldn't, like, I'm too much of a wimp. Like, I wouldn't, like, want to hold that secret. Or, like, it's like, when she doesn't want to marry him because he's so rich and she, like, doesn't want his money. I'm like, yes, I want your money. I also want your love.
But, like, dumbest reason.
But, like, I will also spend your money. Like, like, whenever, like, there's, like, a heroine, it's normally a heroine, who is just, like, I don't want, like, she's just, like, turned off, which, like, I get it. Like, if it's, like, a certain type of hero who's, like, you know, vain and, like, really just buys things and doesn't understand, like, actual emotions and just buys love, like, that's different. But when they're just so adamant about, like, not accepting help, and, like, I'm like, girl, you're almost on the streets. Take the money. Take this position that he's offering you. Like, do something.
On the streets.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I love that, you know, I don't know, empowerment, but also I like a warm meal. I like a warm bed. And if I had a rich nobleman who wanted to help me, not even like have sex, just wanted to like give me money to survive, I think I would do it.
Yeah, also part of it was that she didn't think and he was lying the whole time.
Of course.
Literally almost until the last minute about,
Nice.
number 1, his piano playing, even
I
though
thought you were
he's,
gonna say
like,
his
a
penis.
virtuoso. No. No, about his piano playing. He's, like, a virtuoso piano player, but there's something wrong with his hand. It's all, like, swollen and
Oh,
messed up, and so he's supposed to be resting it, and she's been helping him take care of it, but he never told her that it's,
he was
like,
a
agony for him
pianist?
to not be able to play the piano.
Oh.
Unclear why that didn't he was, like, keeping that a secret, and also he didn't tell her like, they had met before, but he was just Mr. Wyndham because he's just Mr. Wyndham, and he
Mhm.
doesn't mention until much, much later that he's the youngest son of a duke. So, like,
Oh.
he doesn't have a title, but he's from a powerful aristocratic which, again, I don't know why we're lying about this.
Yeah.
Um, or not, like, lying, but
But just, like, with whole like,
she
just
feels lied
yeah.
to.
Because
And is
yeah.
like, "Why didn't you tell me this?" Especially because she's kind of sensitive about the aristocracy because she, like, married into it, but she's
Mm,
still, like, really low ranking, and, like, nobody she essentially has this whole, like, she mattered while she was married to a baron, but now that
yeah.
she's a widow, like, everybody
I
forgot
mean,
about her.
she wouldn't even really matter if she was married to, like or it's you say he's the first son of a duke, so he's an heir? Or is he, like, the
No, he's the
3rd?
last son.
Oh, yeah, so then, I mean, no one cares about him.
No, but she's still, like, sensitive about I don't know, I just don't know, there was so much, like, not
He
telling
should
each
be a
other
vicar.
things, and I was like, "Why
Yeah.
are we just, like, not telling each other things that aren't even, like, a huge deal?"
How was the sex? Was there any
It was
sex?
yeah, there was
That's good.
plenty, and it was fine. I don't have any clear I mean, I think it was good.
Yeah, well, see, that the Duke of Sin only had, like, 2 scenes. It was, like, a lot
Oh,
less I know, maybe, like, I missed one, but, like, they definitely didn't hit like some of the first few books did, or at least the Virgin one, that one was so fucking good. Um, I was surprised by the lack of because it took a pretty long while, which, I mean, made sense. I mean, this man is a criminal of the state, but, like, I I don't quite know. I mean, he was cute at the end. I could get it, and someone compared him to Lothair in,
mhm.
Cressley Coles, which totally makes sense. I mean, Lothair's book for me was, like, the same rating, like, right in the middle, like, 3 stars, like, it was good.
I mean, aren't
Not
those
my favorite.
all morality chain?
Y yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you've
Because
gotta have it
then
good.
I'm interested, like, intrigued for you to read all those different ones. I mean, obviously, you love Sebastian, so and
I
they're all,
do.
like, blonde,
I
which
do
again
like
is
a
just not
morality chain.
yeah. It
Anyway,
was a thing.
so that was
That
my
one, I selfishly am so happy that you took the fall on that one.
oh, you would have hated it. I every time something happened that was like somebody's lying about
I have a
something
brand.
or like somebody's not like there's the blackmail.
Yeah.
He also tried to like basically murder her. Like there was a
Yeah.
storm and she was with they were there. I don't know who these random characters are. There were some neighbors that they were friends with, I guess. They would go
Yeah.
live at their house. I don't know. And they would go stay at their house and they were there during the storm and they came back and a tree had like fallen into part of her house.
Yeah.
But as soon as they examined it, they discovered, lo and behold, the lightning had only broken it partially. It was still up, and then
Mm.
somebody like sawed it
Sawed it
so that it
off.
fell on her house.
I
And then
wonder
left
who.
and because he's maniacal, every time he would come to visit or, like, it would be real ominous when she didn't, like, meet him, like, he would come to visit and he
Mhm.
would give her a pennyroyal plant, um, and so when she went to go stay in Valentine's house, and the workers were like, "Oh, here's this plant that was, like, on your counter, we figured you would want to, like, have it, take care of it," and it
Mhm.
was pennyroyal, and she she chucked it out the window, which I respect because she's like, "This weed, I don't want it."
Fuck your
Um,
weed.
but how maniacal that he, like, leaves
God.
pennyroyal and brings it with him every time.
Ugh. I sorry. I read One Night of Surrender by Darcy Burke, so that was, like, another new one. It was like I think it was a novella. It was like 200 pages, so it was like a short-ish novella or long-ish novella, short-ish book. I don't quite know. It's part of her series that she does with Erica Ridley, where they each write a book in order. It was a fine book, it was very surface level. It was just like a second chance. They had known each other at Oxford because her father um wasn't I don't think he was really I don't know if he was a professor or if he was just like he was like someone at Oxford. So he like made something, I don't know. While the Earl and like his friend the Duke and all that, they were learning there. And then she was also being taught by her father, but like she wasn't obviously going to Oxford. So then they like had a fling 10 years ago. I think it was 10 years. I I mean, I think she slept with him, and then they just like kind of separated because he had to marry someone, and then she got married. Hers was a bad marriage because the guy was just kind of like dull. And then she like didn't have children, and he was angry, and then he died. And then as soon as her husband died, this guy married a woman, and it was presented as very dramatic because I think she was not faithful. Um, so like the whole thing, I thought it was gonna be a lot more dramatic than it was, but she was just like not a great wife. But then he also was like, I was just kind of in love with you the entire time, so like can't really blame her. And she like died in childbirth with not his baby. So I mean that was not great for him. Then he was like, I'm not getting married anymore, like I'm not gonna fall in love. And then they just like meet 10 years later. She's the governess of like his family friend who is staying there for a little bit while his townhome is being renovated, and he has like two daughters. And I mean, it was like a little bit dramatic when they ran into each other. But then she like gets fired because the wife is like jealous because the husband like made in advance and all that. So you're kind of just like, what? So then she had like one night as a barmaid in the bar, like the tavern that he owns, which I think that could have been a lot more fun if she would have like been a barmaid for longer because it was kind of funny. Because she was not suited for the life of a barmaid. She was like speaking Greek and Latin and like all these things. So then he was like, okay, how about you go be the chaperone of my sister? And then there was like a cheeky sister, obviously, and then like the dowager, very like stern but lovable. She kind of like meddled in the relationship, but it just like there was only like one sex scene. It wasn't like I want the pining and the yearning to be like multiplied in like a second chance, and it was just kind of like it wasn't very angsty, which I guess I don't necessarily need because like I mean I prefer like the low angst because there wasn't really a third act breakup, I don't think. But not much really happens, but also just like it didn't go deep into the surface, which I don't know. It was like a 3-star read. Oh, well, 3.5. I rounded down because I'm like, I'm not gonna remember this book in a day. Granted, that happens to a lot of books, but this one particularly, like I spent like $4 on it. I had a Kobo gift card. Um, I don't regret spending it, and I don't regret reading it, but I wouldn't do it again. You know, like I wouldn't go back and be like, yes, that's a purchase I would make again. Um, but I would be interested in the sister story, but then again, I'm like, there are so many other books to read, and it wasn't an audiobook, and I prefer audiobooks. But it also took place around Valentine's Day, and his name was Valentine, and he was like, it's my day. So that was kind of cute. I didn't expect it to actually like be Valentine's themed. There was like a Valentine's Day ball. Um,
Cute.
so like it's one of the few historical Valentine's Day things that we found. So like yay on that front. Like I don't not recommend it, but um but yeah, that one it was good. It's weird giving that 3 stars and also giving the Duke of Sin 3 stars because they were just wildly different books. Like I don't
Yeah.
know.
I-
A lot happened in that Duke of Sin.
Sometimes I give Elisa Kleypas 3 stars, and I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, this compared to the other 3 stars I've
Mhm.
read
Yeah.
is a 5 star. I don't know how ratings work.
I understand the value of ratings, but it's just so hard. I just need like a sliding scale, but also like an author scale. Um, but yeah, I read a few other Valentine's Day ones in preparation just to like mention. Um, oh wait, no, we have a few other. We have The Duke in Question by Emily Howard,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have An Heiress's Guide to Deception and Desire by Manda
Mm-hmm.
Collins. That one I liked. Really don't remember it. I listened to the audiobook. I read the first like those 3 books earlier or December maybe? November? No, October? I don't know. I really liked them all. So I liked them, but that one just kind of, I think, got like lost in the middle of my memory.
I don't
But
tend to
that,
remember
yeah.
Manda's like, I remember the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I very quickly lose the details on the mysteries,
Yeah.
which isn't that the mysteries are, like, poorly written, just,
Yeah.
I similar to how I never remember the plot of thrillers either.
Yeah.
There's something about that just, like, it doesn't stick in my brain the way that a romance does. But the Mandicott, I love that series.
It's very
Um,
cozy and like very
it
charming.
really feels like historical romance meets cozy mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they were Lady's Guide was the first forever book that I read.
I read that. Yeah, that was like
Um,
pretty early on for me too.
and it was how Dana found me on TikTok and was like, "Hey, do you want me to send you some books?" And she did, and
Aw.
she sent me Heiress's Guide.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now I'm working on the third book in that series. So
Oh
we've
my
come full
gosh.
circle. Also, I have my little stuffed penguin here who look at him.
Oh my gosh.
My boss sent me for like in a little care package when I started my job.
Aw.
He was in the care package and his name is Valentine after after Valentine in an Heiress's Guide to Deception and Desire. Cause
Aw.
I love me some Valentine, and the heroine's name is Caroline,
Oh my
and
god,
she
that's
has a big
perfect.
cat, and I love her. Um,
Oh,
but I love that series.
yes. So it's like
Excited
it's a
for the
series
third one to come out.
recommendation.
Yes,
Yes, that one is very good. That was my favorite of the bunch, the teal one.
Eris's Guide was the second chance. Um,
Yes.
which I remember why. It can kind of, depending on your feelings about second chances, you might be kind of annoyed about why it didn't bother me. But it
I don't
was
think
like
it bothered.
his family got in the way. She was like not titled, I want to say, even though he was a second son, and so they like didn't like her for him, and I think he like didn't stand up for her. I can't remember if he broke it off or
Hmm.
if she did just because he didn't stand up for her to like her father or whoever, but now he's inherited because his older brother died unexpectedly. So he has taken on the title, and so I think he can kind of do whatever he wants, but also he compromises her. Well, he doesn't compromise her, but they are compromised early
Yeah.
on in the book, even though they weren't doing anything scandalous. Well, let me rephrase. They weren't engaged in amorous activities. They were interviewing actors backstage at a theater trying to find a
I'm
criminal. I can't
missing.
remember if he was a murderer or a kidnapper or yeah,
Well, there
somebody's
like
gone
there's a
missing.
missing actress. I'm looking at the summary. So an actress goes
Yes.
missing. I'm assuming
Yeah,
that's what
see, I
they're.
remember the romance, but I do not remember the mystery.
I
Anyway,
remember.
she gets like kind of roughed up. And so when they come back out, she's like in dishabille.
Yeah.
And so it
Yeah.
looks like they've been
Yeah.
getting hot and heavy even though they haven't, and he's like, "We're engaged." And just kind of leaps on that opportunity cuz he wants to
Beautiful.
marry her anyway. And I respect that.
Honestly, same. And Mary Jane Wells narrates the audiobooks.
Mm.
Um, so my review, Goodreads is down, so like there's like a partial review on Storygraph. Um, it was just about like how I thought there was gonna be a closed door sex scene, but then they were just laying on the bed getting cozy when it started. The next chapter
Oh
started, and there
yeah.
was the open door.
Yeah.
Each one has like a sex scene or two, which was nice. I
Yeah,
liked
they're
the
never like
sex in
super
the.
explicit, but
They're
they're
not, but I thought they were actually. They were. The first one was like
fine.
better than I remembered.
Mhm.
And then the second one was good, and then the third one I really liked. So I that's a fun series. And
Mhm.
again, Mary Jane Wells, you really can't
I mean, it's
miss.
like
Well, you can miss with her, but
mystery and murder and blackmail
yes.
and mayhem and cults,
And like in the historical
kidnappings.
context, it's so nice. I love the historical just vibe that you can add to anything.
It's just
Um,
Victorian ladies meddling. If you
honestly.
like, what is it, Miss Scarlet and the Duke,
Mm,
this has those vibes, but with more romance.
nice. We don't have I think it's BritBox. We don't have that. So we're gonna wait until all of it's out and then we're gonna get a trial of BritBox. My mom was like, no more streaming. I was like, that makes sense.
That's fair.
Um our next one, The Duke in Question by Emily Howard. I remember most of this one. I read it twice. I love this book. Loved it when I read the arc and then I read the audiobook after it came out. It's great. She's her brother's friend. They're not really like best friends. Are they best friends? I don't know. And
I
she's
thought
kind of
they just
like,
worked to were they
so
friends
they like
or were
know
they
each
just, like
other. They're
yeah.
like acquaintances. And
'Cause didn't
so
they work
she's
together? Weren't they, like, spies together? I don't
I,
know.
that's a great question. The brother
Now
owns
I
the
sound
boat that
like
they're
you.
on. I
I'm like, I
the
don't know the
brother
details.
just the brother owns the boat that they're on. So they're crossing the ocean to America, and she is technically an undercover spy. She's working. She's got a clue about an attempted assassination on Lincoln. We know how that goes. Um, it's a different one. Apparently, it
Yeah,
happened.
a different
A
assassination
different one.
attempt.
So kind of a bittersweet
You know how
feeling when they.
pissed I would be if I
I
went through
would be.
all of this to thwart the assassination, only to get home and have somebody be like, "Lincoln's been assassinated." I'd be like, "What?"
Well, ma'am, imagine being Katniss and trying to save your sister, and then for her to get
Don't
kaboomed.
bring up the don't bring up the war criminal right now.
Made me so fucking angry.
Don't
Okay,
bring up the war criminal on this my safe space
I hate him so much.
podcast.
Okay, yeah. So she's called the Kestrel type of bird. So she's like an undercover spy. She's got this clue trying to save Lincoln. And then he is a retired spy. He is also on this boat because he knows the Kestrel's going to be there. He is divorced from another spy that's amicable. They just got married for like the vibes, like, undercover vibes.
They just
And
got
everything.
married for the vibes.
I don't know.
Me?
This is what happens when I have
I'm
to
gonna
give
be
plots.
saying my vows one day and be like, I'm gonna marry you for the vibes.
So, I mean, they were like former lovers, but like she's a cool lady. And so the heroine, whatever her name is, it's probably great. Don't remember it. Do you? Yeah, I don't know.
Isn't it?
She doesn't expect this Valentine. I know his name because it's part of the episode. So she doesn't expect Valentine to be on this boat. She sees him, so she has to act. So she's been like acting her entire life, kind of like privileged and kind of spoiled, and like ditzy to kind of
Oh, I was
assuage
right.
the
It's Bronwyn.
Bronwyn. Look at you. So she's been like acting, and he like believes it. He's like, wow, like I'm like attracted to her, but like not happy about it because she's kind of like stuck up. And then obviously like his ex-wife, she's like, ha ha ha. And then basically there's just a lot of like sex and steamy situations. There's a great deflowering against a tree.
You
That
know, just
tree.
how you want to lose your virginity.
Yeah. I mean, she was into it.
Cough, cough, again the magic. Except it's
I
brilliant, and again it sounds so uncomfortable, but my god.
There was another one in a Julianne Long book where they had kissed for the first time 2 minutes prior, and then he just stuck it in against a tree, and like she was a virgin, and I was like, pain.
You
But
know,
I mean, Bronwyn was ready. It was the adrenaline. They had just like escaped with their lives,
the danger
trying to
bank.
yeah, a danger bank. That's great.
Sometimes you escape bears and trap them in pits.
Ugh.
Sometimes you escape people trying to kill you.
Yeah. And then you just, bang against the nearest surface.
In this case, a tree.
A large tree. And it was so good. He didn't know she was a virgin. So then it was dark, so he didn't see her virgin's blood. And then like that night they like found this cottage and they like go to bed, and then he like in the morning like wakes up and cleans up, and he's like, what the fuck? He didn't realize, and he like saw it, and then she was like sleeping. She's like, I'm tired. Like, you woke me up for this. And it was great. It was so good. Lonely Island,
They're so horny all the time.
They are. And then there was like an alcove scene. It was great. And then her brother showed up. And like her brother's associate was also on the boat. So then he like knew I don't know. Like her brother knew
spy things happen.
Spy things happen. Yeah.
We don't know. Similar to Manda Collins, we don't know the external plot details.
Yeah. Like
it was good.
I remember there was the Lincoln bit.
Yeah.
So I
There's
remember,
some
yeah,
double crossing going
there is.
on.
Yeah.
There are some mysterious folks. Lives are in danger. People are shot at. And there's a lot of sex. So, what more
There
do
is.
you want?
That's my favorite one out of this bunch. Would be that one, and then it would be the Heiress's Guide to Deception and Desire. Then probably Duke of Sin, just for the dolphin tattoo on his ass. I can't, like, if it's between that and One Night of Surrender, like, I'll give it to the dolphin tattoo.
Sure, the
So
Duke
yeah,
with the dolphin tattoo.
honestly, that would have worked real well. Because it wasn't like for the book to be called Duke of Sin, it just wasn't. I mean, he was sinful,
I was gonna
but
say he
like,
sounded pretty like the
I
Duke of
just when
Sin.
I think of sin, I think of like sexy things rather than like actual jailable sins. I guess, but he was just straight up a criminal.
The only
Which,
Maiden Lane book I've read was the first one, which
mm,
I can't wait for you to read because it's one of my favorite.
he comes up in this book,
It's
Lazarus.
what? Yeah, Lazarus. He
His
has
so she's his sister, his like half sister.
OT. Okay, well, love that. He has one of my favorite historical microtropes, which was on my list to go on the historical romance bingo, and I
Oh
somehow
really?
skipped it, and I'm pissed about it. So it'll have to go on a future board. But that is the hero or one of the characters has disturbing or alarming scandalous sexual proclivities, and then when we get to it it's
Oh
actually just something mildly kinky.
yeah.
So in this case, well, I mean, he does have like an interesting touch aversion type
Mm-hmm.
situation going on. But the aversion or the the scandalous proclivities that everybody whispers about very dramatically are that he's into like bondage and blindfolding. So he like ties her
Wow.
up. And then at the end
Shame.
she's allowed to tie him up. It's a whole she's like, I want to do it to you,
Nice.
which is fun. But I just love the microtrope. It happens in Devil in Spring too, where they're like, oh,
Yep.
or he
Yep.
can't expect his wife to satisfy his outside of the norm sexual proclivities, only for it to be
I
like a
feel
little light bondage.
there was what is her name?
I don't know, but as a side note about that scene, I will say, I mean, I laughed at him. I laughed in his face at him being like, "Dad, I like
Dad.
really kinky stuff," and Sebastian St. Vincent, his father, being like, "LOL." You think. Anyway, but I will say that scene was kind of hot. He tied her up with her corset strings, and I was like, "All right, filing that away." What is that Sebastian quote? Where he's like, "People have been doing crazier stuff than you
That is
for
true.
like hundreds of years. Like,
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
not
like, I get
special."
it, like, with just, like, how, like, society misses were, like, raised and all that. Um,
Yeah, but there's a good, I think it's Portrait of a Scotsman. They have a good moment where they talk about how like aristocratic wives would come to Lucian to like have
yeah,
affairs with him and like get a bit of rough.
yeah.
And so he like didn't want to ask Hattie to do stuff. And I think it was like the friend that
Mm,
was like, you've seen like society
these
wives. Like
wives.
these wives come to
Yeah.
you. So it's bold of you to assume that your wife doesn't want exactly what all these other wives are coming to you to get, which their husbands won't give them because they expect them to not want it. So they're going to
That's
get it
funny.
somewhere else. That's a
And
very long, not at all good paraphrase of that scene, but
but speaking of Evie Dunmore, Rogue of One's Own, his name is Tristan Valentine. So it's not Valentine, but he
yes.
does encounter Valentine cards because he's hot and girls want to give him cards. So
Yeah,
there's a little bit of a
it's a
Valentine-esque
tie-in. They have Valentine
tie-in.
cards. I would like
Um,
one.
yeah, I would love a Valentine card. So
Tristan's
I
hot.
did read I did read two other Valentine's novellas that were like pretty good. Or well, one was pretty good, one was phenomenal. They are both from Avon, so it's HarperCollins. Standard disclaimer: the strike, we hope, is almost over. They've reached a tentative agreement, so hopefully soon. So this is not necessarily a review, but just to let you know because it was very hard to find them. The first one is The Earl in My Bed by Sophie Jordan. It's a forgotten princess's Valentine novella. He calls her princess a lot. That one is just they basically like a group of childhood friends. He had a few siblings, and then she was there. She was always in love with his brother. Um, then he also had an older one. Well, then his older brother I think died, so then he's now the is he an Earl? Yeah, they're so he's an Earl, and the one she's in love with obviously is his younger brother. He has no clue, like he is not attracted to this girl. He sees her as a sister. He's not into it. The Earl was off at war for a long time, so he's been gone. Comes back because he was then made the heir, and he like then they start interacting, and it was like pretty cute. It's pretty forgettable. But it was pretty cute. I did actually have to make notes because I was like, Hannah, you're gonna forget this. And what am I doing? I'm forgetting it. If I can find it, the Earl in My Bed. Okay. So childhood friends, but she loved his brother. He's got a title now. They're both back in town. They yell about passion, desire, and then they get passion and desire all over. They get compromised. He sneaks into her room. They boink. They get married. So that's the process there. I did completely forget about the compromising. So then he's like, I'll marry you. And she's like, no, I'm not going to marry you. And then he
Of course,
like
classic.
he sneaked up into a room. It was good. I was wondering if we were going to get a sex scene. So we did. So that one had an audiobook. And then the other one, When Good Earls Go Bad, was Megan Frampton. That was like one of her first books, or like her first with Avon, which I didn't realize. So fucking good. He was a virgin hero. He's Scottish. She owns a not like a housekeeping agency, but like a worker agency where she like will hire out like, maids, housekeepers, cooks and stuff like that. She owns it with her friends who are other heroines in the series. And it starts off with this like footman butler guy. He's asking for a housekeeper, and he's like, we need someone to clean up his like place and then just like stay there. And she's like, well, I don't have any. I literally like, I'm not equipped for this. Like, I don't have anyone on staff. Like, you're gonna have to leave. And he's like, well, he's an Earl and you're gonna lose his business and we're gonna like badmouth you. And she's like, okay, well, I don't want to lose his business. So then she is like, I'll suck it up. How hard can it be? I can housekeep. So she gets there, she starts cleaning, and she stops before she cleans his room because she's like, he's not coming until later in the day tomorrow. That's fine. Like, I'll wake up, I'll have time because she's like exhausted. She goes to bed. Well, this man, he hates being late, but he also hates being early because he's wasting so much time where he could have been doing other things if he would have left later. All that. He gets early into town. She's already asleep. He basically gets to town right after she went to bed. He gets pretty drunk because there's nothing else for him to do. Like there's no food, like there's not like cook or anything. So he's like, he found the whiskey and was like, let me just, have a little party with myself. He crawls into bed, but it's not empty. She's in it. And he's like, oh my God, so sorry. What are you doing here? It's a whole cute thing. And then basically, they just like lived together for however long he was there. And like I said, he's a virgin hero. I didn't expect that. He was so cute. It was so sweet. The Valentines, when that came into play, it was adorable. He like got her like all these Valentine's gifts, and then his like one, I won't say it, but super cute. 5 out of 5. I loved it, and I would read it if I were you and anyone listening. Yeah, I got it at the library, so maybe your library would have it. But that one I think like falls through the cracks. The Photoshop job on the cover, atrocious. That poor woman. They photoshopped some period hair onto her.
Oh, no.
My God. If I were you, Caroline, I would look it up right now. It's When Good Earls Go Bad. I don't think you're ready for this jelly. I'm jelly of her hair and what they did to it. I mean, it looks like they just like put a face on some like a Q-tip. I don't know what they like, why they did that.
I can't find a high enough res image. Oh, hang on. Why does it look like that?
I don't know. And it's Avon. So like
Her face is so zoomed in.
She she looks so depressed. She's very happy. It was a very quirky and fun book. She looks like she's like getting sacrificed
But
to
also,
like
just, like, her facial features are far too large for the size of her face.
I don't know what they
It
did.
looks like they zoomed in too far, and it's all out of proportion.
Her head angle is different than her body angle. Her chin is not where her lips are. Like, it's a whole thing. Her hair is the worst. Like, I could Photoshop this better, like, 2 sheets to the wind, like, drunk.
It looks like, you know, when we were children and people would make or like Photoshop themselves or like their face onto pictures with like
Yes.
members of One Direction
Yeah.
or Justin Bieber or whoever, and
Yeah.
it's like really poorly their face on somebody else's body, or they like Photoshop themselves. That's what it looks like. It looks
I
like someone has Photoshopped her face onto this heroine. Well, but also it looks like those 2 were not in the picture
Not in the same
together.
photo together. Not at all.
His arm looks weirdly photoshopped too. Look at his hand compared to the rest of his body.
They definitely photoshopped a different arm onto that man. That's a
Okay,
different
what
that's
is
that's
this
a
cover?
different cover. Or that's a different color. It's also different lighting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen like cover designers like definitely take and like different shirts and like different hands and stuff. So like I understand, but also they just didn't like wherever his hand was originally could have just been there. Like
Okay.
again, at what
Yeah,
cost?
this isn't good.
No.
Um,
But the book inside was delightful. And she's his housekeeper, so like when they're having sex because she's a widow. No, she's not. Sorry, that's a different book. She was ruined a long time ago. The guy said he loved her, didn't marry her. So like she knows what to do. She knows what gets her off. Like he basically doesn't like know anything about sex. He was like saving himself for his marriage. Just being a cute little, I don't know, Scottish Earl. And she when they're going into the bedroom, she like grabs her feather duster. He's like, "What?" And so then she like tosses it aside for the first bit. She like gets him down. He's like on the bed. She's like going down on him, and he's like, "Oh my god!" Like I don't even think this man knew what a blowjob was. He was like very enthusiastic. And then she like gets her feather duster and starts teasing him with
Lord.
the feather duster. And I was like, "Why is this so good?" So yeah, I mean, to me that kind of scared me because then he used it on her, but I was like, UTIs are real out here on these streets. So that kind of scared me. Hope it was a clean feather duster. I mean, she didn't do too much cleaning because she wasn't a housekeeper. Um, but it was just there was no breakup. It was lovely. Like I said, like the third act, like love confession was adorable. I don't know. It was like the best thing I've ever read. Um, and then we both read X's and O's. That's another Valentine. That's contemporary. That's a Valentine's Day rec. Super cute. Roommates, firefighter. She's a book influencer. For YA, I have The Do Over by Lynn Painter and then 11 Paper Hearts by Kelsey Hartwell. Those two are very cute. And To All the Boys I Loved Before. I mean, that's a classic. Crazy Cupid Love was wild. It was like an old source books book I read last year. Completely unhinged. Not quite sure what happened there. But it was fun. And the sex scene was like out of pocket. I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then Not Your Valentine by Jackie Lau was fantastic. My dog is barking. That was fantastic. And that one was out this year from Kobo. And then I read Royal Valentine by Jen McKinley. That was like pretty good. The audiobook was like $1. And then I read Just One More by Jodie Slaughter, and that was also fantastic. Basically, it was just like they met in this Uber share. They were both attracted to each other. Some guy got sick all over in the backseat, so they got out. And they just like had spent a weekend in his apartment, and it was the sweetest, sexiest thing ever. And he was a barber, and she was a tattoo artist, and I loved it so much. It was so good. It was like an older note. I think it was like 2019, but good God. I just want to like I want that to be a whole series because it was so cute. And it was really hot too. So those are my Valentine's Day like speed recs that weren't historical. I also want to read Stupid Cupid by Maeve Black. She wrote Blood Moon that I read for our Halloween episode, which I really liked. So that one comes out on Valentine's Day. So that's my plan for Tuesday.
Nice.
Yeah.
The only other, I don't have any recs. The only other one was Something Fabulous by Alexis Hall is another historical that I had meant to read for this
He
episode.
was a Valentine
and then
in there.
Life happened. And it's a queer historical romance, and one of the heroes is named Valentine. I do want to read it. Alexis Hall notoriously writes long books.
Yes.
So I was trying to find an audiobook, but it was a whole no, that it wasn't at any of my libraries. It wasn't at
Really?
Kobo. It was only on Audible, and I had already used my credit, so it was like a whole thing. So we'll see when I get to that one. But I think the cover was just revealed for the next book in that series, and that one was really cute too.
It was Read Now on NetGalley last week. I don't know if it's still Read Now.
Oh, well, I haven't read the first one, so I probably won't request an arc for the second one just because I have so many other arcs and things.
I'm drowning. I'm drowning in arcs.
I listened to the sample of the audiobook, and I read like kind of part of the first page, and it's funny. The only other Alexis Hall I read is A Lady for a Duke, which is also historical, but it's a more like serious. It's got like a clinch cover versus this one is like an illustrated cover, so I think there's a different style. But the audiobook sample and the first page were real funny. It starts with him proposing to the woman who's gonna run away, and she is like horrified by this. She's like, I literally could not be more repulsed by you if you had, in her head, she doesn't say this, but she's like, I could not be more repulsed if you had like 6 arms and 4 eyes. Like, wants nothing to do with this man.
I read boyfriend material last year. It's when I first like found out about Chirp. It's just like has a bunch of audiobook deals. So I like bought that audiobook. And the first half was like hilarious. Like he is a funny man. Alexis like funny, hilarious. The second half kind of lost the plot a little bit, but like in general it was a very funny book. So I'm very excited to like read more of him. I have the audiobook for A Lady for a Duke, and I've had it for a long time. I just feel like whenever I don't have like the NetGalley arc of it, I always like forget because like NetGalley, like you're in a blood oath with that ratio. So those are always like prioritized, and then like I forget about like all the different ones throughout all this shit. But the mass market's coming out for that one soon. So I do want to read it before that comes out.
I mean, that was like one of the first forever books that I worked on. I basically started my internship and they were like, hey, read this and help. Like before it was on NetGalley or anything, it was just like a PDF file. And so I couldn't tell how long it was, and that's a long book.
Yeah.
That's bulky. Great book, however, it does feel like 2 books. But I mean, it's like it's more serious. There's some somber things. Quite lovely. It feels very epic, but it still has funny.
Yeah, I wasn't in the right headspace. I think when I started it and I just wasn't paying attention. Like I just wasn't grasping it, and I was like, this is something I need to like invest my brain into. Yeah. And my brain has been thus forth booked up with whatever I've been doing.
It does have a healthy appreciation for bacon, which I respect.
I like bacon, like the food.
Yeah.
I don't like bacon. my hot take. I used to love bacon. And then my grandparents have a cabin in Wisconsin, and we go there every summer. And she made this so it's like a very small space. She made this like corn bacon thing on the stove, and the entire cabin smelled like bacon for 24 hours. And ever since, the smell of bacon is like my enemy. It was because it was like greasy and I don't mind. Like I can handle it now, but I'd prefer not.
I have a really sad announcement, everyone. This is actually the last episode of Romancer TBR. Hannah and I had creative differences and have decided to amicably part ways. And by amicably part ways, I mean I will actually never be speaking to her again.
She's mailing me a whole pig. But get this. But if we were ever, so we're going to be together in August of this year. What if we go out for breakfast and I get bacon and I'm like, God damn it, I hate bacon. I give you my bacon. Isn't that like a great case scenario for you?
You trying to use the olive rule to like win me back?
I don't know what that is.
Are you trying to rom-com your way into, what is that? Is it a New Girl? What is that from? The olive rule, where one partner in a romantic relationship, I think it's olives.
Oh, doesn't like, and then the other one,
and
that
the other
probably
one
is
does.
from New Girl.
So I feel like it.
Let me see.
Or maybe it's, they have a trail mix scene, I think, where she doesn't like something in trail mix, and Nick is like, what? That's the best part.
How I Met Your Lillian Marshall, How I Met Your Mother.
I knew it was a sitcom. Okay. Lillian Marshall. That makes me feel better and less like I'm going crazy. I loved How I Met Your Mother, minus the ending.
I think I watched a good amount. My parents watched it all. I was like watching it with them, and then I don't know. I went off and.
Anyway, you can't use the olive rule to win me back. Bacon.
I feel like you'll have a different. You'll be singing a different tune if you get my bacon.
That sounded like a weird innuendo.
It really did, and I just kind of went for it.
I respect that.
Thank you.
But
you don't respect.
No. I respect you going for innuendos. I don't respect you not liking bacon or your traumatizing experience with it. I really don't care about your trauma.
She flushed me out. It was so bad. Like, because it was like in the middle of summer, no AC. It was before we got like our wall AC, so everything smelled like bacon, and I hate grease. Like I don't mind greasy food, like if I can use a fork. And like it made me feel disgusting, and I was smelling it, and it got everywhere. And I really did love bacon before that.
Well, this was an absurdly long episode yet again. No one's surprised.
This was. I mean, it's Valentine's Day. We can be over the top. We can be extra.
Using some excuse every episode. We're like, it's fine. Whatever. If you
it's the Valentine's rule.
Good for you. The Valentine's rule.
I mean,
I have nothing left to say.
No.
Read some romance.
You've got some Rex, and
you can treat yourself if you're doing Valentine's alone like me. You can run a little nice bubble bath, get into some silk fancy PJs or something, coziest PJs you have, and maybe do a little face mask, make some cookies, and read some romance.
Do it.
Hopefully, or if you have a date night, then you should ditch the date and read romance. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But
ditch the date.
Ditch one of us and read romance instead. Quote.
We don't support love on this podcast.
No romantic relationships allowed.
None.
Only fictional love.
We'll have to make T-shirts. My boyfriend is fictional.
Ew. God, that's
those old early 2000 memes.
Yeah.
I'm in love. I speak in song lyrics and movie quotes.
Stop.
Rar XD. And I also read a dinosaur romance today, so that was fun. It was fun for me. I'll talk about that at the beginning of our Friday episode. Okay.
So everyone has that to look forward to.
Yes. Stay strong. Hopefully Valentine's Day is good. And we shall see you on Friday.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
X's and O's.
X's and O's. That.
And O's.
What? Is that a
song? X's and O's. The song X's and O's. I don't remember.
Oh wait, no, I know it now.
Okay.
Isn't it it's to the tune of something. What is that?
I don't know, but we need to end this episode. So.
Bye-bye.